Now let's pick up on a tense takeover battle that we've been following. Game of Phones, we've called it, the epic battle for control of Australia's telco market, and most importantly, who holds the number 2 position to rival Telstra. Two smaller telco wannabes, Amcom Telecommunications and Vocus, have been trying to deliver a $1.2 billion merger for their respective shareholders. It's actually been structured as a Vocus takeover of Amcom, but most shareholders in both companies want it to happen. And Amcom share prices and Vocus share prices have been sent skywards. But that was until Amcom and Vocus were thwarted by an aggressive play from the second largest internet service provider, TPG, the no-frills, low-cost telco, which is determined to kill off the merger. TPG built an 18.6% blocking stake in Amcom shares. Now, the Vocus takeover can only go through if 75% of voting shareholders approve the deal. Unfortunately for Vocus, it was not allowed to use the 10% stake it already had in Amcom to vote, infuriating Amcom chairman Tony Grist.
They have said they intend to vote their shares against the scheme with Vocus and have no intention to make any counter-proposal to the scheme. Put simply, they are trying to stop the scheme. Quite frankly, the board believes TPG is motivated by looking after their own interests with no regard for Amcom shareholders.
Well, I spoke to Lincoln Indicator's Elio D'Amato about the deal in mid-May, just 3 days before the shareholder vote.
Starting back in October last year when Vocus took the first 10% stake, and then TPG came in a month after and then said, oh yeah, we're just picking up a lazy 5% for investment purposes only. Well, of course, that was all usurped at the end of April when they came in with an 11% block trade, and basically ever since then have crept up to the line of 20%.
Well, Elio D'Amato thought that deal would need reworking, and he was right. At the 11th hour and just before the May 18 vote, Vocus craftily sold its 10% block to 4 institutional shareholders and postponed the vote for 4 weeks. That date is now the 15th of June, and there's a massive campaign to get shareholders to come out and vote. Well, joining me from Perth is Tony Grist, chairman of Amcom and a former board member of iNet. Tony Grist, you've got about 10 days, I think, until these proxies need to be in. The share price of both Amcom and Vocus looks a bit nervous. How confident are you the deal will go through?
Oh, hi, Chicky. No, it's actually a bit line ball, actually. So we need to have all guns firing in terms of getting shareholders across the line. So, you know, it's sort of 50-50.
How are you actually trying to get the message out to your shareholders to support the board on this?
Well, using a variety of methods. Social media, we're sending video clips to shareholders. We're telemarketing to shareholders who we have their numbers for. We're actually, I guess, getting our message across in the press that it's going to be close and it's their company and they need to vote. And we want to motivate everybody to have a go.
Now, has TPG and its reclusive billionaire shareholder David Teo said any more about its position?
It hasn't, no. David Teo has only stuck by his statement that he intends to vote against the deal, and he has no intention of making a counter-proposal for Amcom.
So, if the deal went through, what would a combined Vocus-Amcom business look like, and what's the potential there for shareholders?
Well, it's a compelling combination. We've had an independent expert, PricewaterhouseCoopers, opine that it's in the interests of all shareholders. But away from the regulatory approach, it's actually a national infrastructure owner with a lot of infrastructure in terms of fibre optic cable and data centres in every major capital city. So we'll be building a national infrastructure player in telecoms that has a very good list of enterprise clients, an absolute who's who.
Yes, if you get this through, it looks like you'll be in the big league. On the other hand, TPG, for precisely that reason, presumably is trying to block this deal. If the deal does not go through, what will that mean for Amcom and the share price?
Well, Amcom is a great company, a standalone company with quite unique assets in the cities in which it operates. Got a great brand, great people, great culture. It's still growing and we pay a nice dividend. So we were approached by Vocus to put the combination together, and when we looked at it, it made compelling sense. I guess it saves Amcom investing in a lot of infrastructure in, say, Sydney and Melbourne, where Vocus has its home markets, and so effectively avoids duplication. There's Plan A and there's Plan B. I prefer the combination, Plan A, and we'll look at what happens if it doesn't go ahead after that day comes.
I suppose if it doesn't go ahead, you are smaller and you risk being hoovered up by one of the bigger fellas down the track.
Well, that's true. Our job as a board is to make sure that we're a growing business and that we make the company as expensive as possible for somebody else who wants to take it over. Our job is to create value for shareholders. So I'm happy to continue to operate the business as it is, but rolling it in together with Vocus just means that shareholders from each group, Vocus and Amcom, get to participate in a national play instead of going head to head against each other in their hometowns.
Now, you've talked about Plan A and Plan B. Isn't Plan C the idea of flipping this deal and actually having Amcom take over Vocus, which presumably TPG doesn't have the same shareholding, anything like the same shareholding in? Has the board of either or both companies talked about this?
It's a consideration for some time in the future. Technically it's possible for Amcom to make an offer for Vocus and for Vocus to be the so-called scheme company where their shareholders vote, which doesn't require Amcom shareholders, including TPG, to have necessarily a say in that. But it's something that we'd only look at sometime in the future. At the moment, it's all focuses on getting the merger across the line on the 15th.
All right. Thank you very much, Tony Grist, for talking to us, and we'll keep our eyes on this for June 15.
Thanks, Tikki. You're welcome.